Fear is not a foe to be banished from our lives. It is a teacher that invites us to learn, grow, and evolve. The world often tells us that fear is something to avoid, something that paralyzes us from taking action or moving forward. Yet, if we take a moment to pause and reflect, we realize that it is through fear that we are given some of our most valuable lessons. Fear is not merely an obstacle. It is a gateway to personal transformation, if we choose to face it. Fear, at first glance, may seem like an unwelcome companion in our lives. It often feels like an obstacle, something to be avoided or conquered. We tend to think of it as something that holds us back, prevents us from pursuing our dreams, or keeps us locked in the confines of our comfort zone. Yet, if we shift our perspective, we can begin to see that fear, in fact, is one of the most powerful forces for growth and transformation that we have at our disposal. Fear, when approached with the right mindset, becomes a guide, a teacher that shows us the way toward deeper understanding and greater potential. At its core, fear is an emotion that signals our desire to protect ourselves. It is an instinctive response to the unknown or the perceived threat to our well-being. But while this protective instinct is valuable, it is not always helpful when it comes to growth and personal development. The fear we experience in life is often not a response to a real, immediate danger, but to the uncertainties of the future. Fear arises when we step into new territory, try something unfamiliar, or challenge ourselves in ways we have never done before. And in those moments, rather than retreating, it is essential to recognize fear as a sign of progress, not as a hindrance. When we experience fear, it is usually because we are on the verge of something new. It signals that we are stepping out of our comfort zones, that we are pushing ourselves to grow, evolve, and explore the uncharted territory of our potential. Fear is not the enemy. It is the key that unlocks the door to transformation. When we are faced with the unknown, our natural instinct is often to turn back, to retreat to the safety of what is familiar. But this is where we miss out on the opportunity to become something more. The path of least resistance, the comfort zone, does not lead to personal growth. True growth comes only when we challenge ourselves, when we confront the fear that tries to keep us where we are and push forward despite it. One of the most powerful lessons that fear offers is the opportunity to develop courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. It is the decision to move forward, even when the path ahead is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain, and when the fear of failure looms large. Courage is the quality that allows us to stand tall in the face of adversity, to take risks, and to venture into the unknown. It is not a trait reserved for the fearless or the invincible. It is something that we all possess, though it is often dormant until fear awakens it. Every time we choose to act despite our fear, we strengthen our courage and deepen our capacity to face future challenges. Courage is not about eliminating fear, it is about making fear our ally. Instead of running from it, we can choose to embrace it, to face it with the understanding that it is not trying to stop us, but to guide us. Fear provides us with the opportunity to assess the risks, to evaluate the stakes, and to make a more informed decision about the direction we want to take. When we face fear with a sense of curiosity, we can begin to see it not as an obstacle, but as a tool for growth. It encourages us to confront the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to take action based on what truly matters to us. Fear also invites us to confront our deepest doubts. It is in moments of fear that we often question our own abilities. We wonder if we are enough, if we are capable, if we have what it takes to succeed. These doubts are a natural part of the process of growth. They remind us that we are human, that we have limits, and that we are not invincible. But rather than seeing these doubts as weaknesses, we can choose to view them as opportunities for self-reflection. When we face our doubts, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. We come to recognize our strengths and weaknesses and we begin to work with them rather than against them. Through this process, we grow more resilient and more self-aware. Self-doubt, when acknowledged and addressed, becomes a powerful tool for personal development. It encourages us to look inward, to ask ourselves difficult questions, and to engage in the process of self-improvement. Doubt is not a sign of inadequacy. It is a sign of engagement, of being fully invested in the outcome of our actions. It pushes us to refine our skills, to sharpen our focus, and to stretch beyond our current capabilities. In this way, fear and self-doubt become catalysts for progress. They force us to examine our choices, to reevaluate our priorities, and to make the necessary adjustments that will allow us to move forward. Additionally, fear and failure often go hand in hand. The fear of failure is one of the most common reasons people shy away from taking risks or pursuing their goals. We fear the possibility of not succeeding, of falling short, of facing disappointment. But it is through failure that we learn the most. Failure is not a reflection of our worth or our abilities. It is a part of the journey. It is an essential ingredient in the recipe for success. Every failure contains a lesson, a valuable piece of information that helps us to adjust our approach and try again with greater wisdom. Without fear of failure, we would not be motivated to learn from our mistakes, to grow from our setbacks, or to strive for improvement. Rather than avoiding failure, we should embrace it as a natural, necessary part of life. Fear of failure should not paralyze us. It should propel us forward. The most successful people in the world have failed many times, but they did not let their failures define them. Instead, they used failure as a stepping stone, as a learning opportunity that allowed them to refine their skills, strengthen their resolve, and ultimately succeed. Fear of failure, when viewed in this light, becomes a motivator, not a hindrance. It is a reminder that the path to success is rarely straight, but it is always worth traveling. The final gift that fear offers is the opportunity to build resilience. Every time we face fear and overcome it, we become stronger. We develop the ability to bounce back from setbacks, to keep going despite the obstacles that may stand in our way, and to stay committed to our goals. Resilience is the ability to persevere, to endure, and to continue moving forward even when things seem impossible. Fear, by its very nature, challenges our resilience. But it is through this challenge that we cultivate the strength to keep going, to rise up after each fall, and to keep striving for our dreams. Fear, when we stop running from it and start facing it head on, becomes the very thing that helps us become the people we were meant to be. It teaches us courage, helps us confront our doubts, forces us to learn from failure, and builds our resilience. Fear is not something to be feared. It is a tool for growth, a guide on our journey to becoming our best self. The more we face fear, the more we grow, and the more we realize that fear is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a teacher to be embraced. The power of facing the unknown is often underestimated. We tend to shy away from uncertainty because it stirs fear within us. The unknown, by its very nature, is unpredictable, and unpredictability brings with it a sense of insecurity. It is far more comfortable to remain in the familiar, in the realm where everything is known, controlled, and certain. Yet, it is precisely when we step into the unknown that we are presented with the most profound opportunities for growth and discovery. The unknown, in all its mystery, has the potential to expand our horizons, challenge our assumptions, and push us to become something greater than we were before. When we face the unknown, we are forced to confront our limitations. The boundaries of what we know are clearly drawn when we venture into unfamiliar territory. The security we once felt in our understanding of the world begins to unravel, and we are left with a sense of vulnerability. But this vulnerability is not something to be feared. It is in this very vulnerability that we find our strength. The unknown asks us to leave behind the safety of certainty and to embrace the possibility of failure, of setbacks, of mistakes. And it is through these very experiences that we learn the most about ourselves. Stepping into the unknown requires courage, for it demands that we let go of the need for control. Control is comforting, but it is also limiting. The unknown is a space where we cannot predict every outcome, where we cannot anticipate every turn. In that space, we are forced to be present, to engage with life as it comes, rather than trying to force it into the shape we want it to take. This is where growth happens, when we stop trying to control every aspect of our lives and begin to trust in the process, trust in the unfolding of the journey. When we are faced with the unknown, we must also confront our fears. Fear of failure, fear of the unexpected, fear of not measuring up. These fears are natural and human, but they can also be paralyzing if we let them dominate our thoughts. It is easy to stay in the comfort of what we know, to avoid taking risks, to resist change. But what we fail to realize is that by staying within our comfort zones, we deprive ourselves of the chance to grow. The unknown is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as a necessary part of life. It is in the face of fear that we find courage, and it is through courage that we are able to break through the walls of self-imposed limitation. The unknown also invites us to challenge our assumptions about who we are and what we are capable of. We often think we know ourselves, that we have figured out our strengths and weaknesses. But it is only when we step into unfamiliar territory that we truly test those assumptions. We may discover hidden talents, new passions, or unexpected strengths that we never knew existed within us. The unknown asks us to shed the constraints of our previous understanding and to approach life with fresh eyes. In doing so, we open ourselves to the possibility of reinvention, to the opportunity to evolve into something greater than what we once thought we were. Furthermore, the unknown teaches us to embrace uncertainty as an integral part of life. We are conditioned to seek certainty and predictability, to have a clear plan and a set path to follow. But life is rarely as neat and orderly as we would like it to be. The unknown reminds us that uncertainty is not something to be feared, but something to be accepted as part of the human experience. It is through uncertainty that we learn resilience, adaptability, and flexibility. We learn to roll with the punches, to bend without breaking, and to remain steadfast even when the road ahead is unclear. The unknown becomes a teacher, showing us how to navigate the unpredictable nature of life with grace and strength. Ultimately, the unknown opens us up to the vast potential that lies beyond our comfort zones. It is a realm where anything is possible, where new possibilities are waiting to be discovered. But to unlock this potential, we must be willing to take the first step into the unknown. We must be willing to leave behind the familiar, the safe, and the predictable, and to embrace the uncertainty that comes with venturing into uncharted territory. It is through this willingness to explore the unknown that we unlock the door to our own growth and transformation, finding within ourselves the strength, courage, and wisdom to face whatever lies ahead. Courage, as a quality, is often misunderstood. Too frequently, we associate courage with the absence of fear. We imagine that courageous individuals are those who do not feel afraid, those who charge into situations without hesitation, without doubt, and without the internal resistance that most of us experience when confronted with challenges. In truth, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act despite fear. It is the decision to move forward, to rise above our anxiety, to step into the unknown even when we are uncertain about what lies ahead. Courage is not about never feeling afraid. It is about doing what is necessary, even when fear is present. Fear, in many ways, is an inseparable companion to courage. It is through fear that we are prompted to summon courage. Without fear, there would be no need for bravery. We would simply act without thought or hesitation, moving through life without the hesitation that fear often brings. But fear is essential to the human experience. It is an emotion that warns us, that alerts us to the presence of danger, uncertainty, or the potential for failure. It is a part of our survival instinct, a force that keeps us alert and aware. However, it is also a force that can paralyze us if we allow it to dominate our decisions. And it is here, at this crucial juncture, that courage steps in. Courage allows us to move through fear, to take action despite the uncertainties that we may face. Every person has the capacity for courage, though it is often latent, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The most courageous individuals are not those who do not fear, but those who recognize their fear and move forward anyway. They acknowledge the presence of fear, but do not allow it to control them. Instead, they choose to face their challenges with the knowledge that fear is simply a part of the process. Fear is not an obstacle to overcome. It is a signal that we are on the right path, that we are stretching beyond our comfort zone, and that we are on the verge of something meaningful. The path to courage is not always clear, nor is it without struggle. It takes time and perseverance to cultivate courage, especially when the stakes are high or when the risk of failure feels overwhelming. But courage is built through practice. Each time we face our fears and move forward, no matter how small the step, we strengthen our courage. The more we act despite fear, the more we develop the ability to handle greater challenges, to step into more uncertain and daunting situations. Courage is not an all-or-nothing trait. It is a muscle that strengthens over time, each experience of pushing through fear adding another layer of resilience. Courage is also deeply tied to our values. It is easier to summon courage when we are acting in alignment with something that is truly important to us. When we believe in the worth of our goals, when we are driven by a sense of purpose, fear becomes less of a barrier. The desire to achieve something greater, to make a difference, to live a life of meaning, outweighs the fear that may arise. When we feel called to do something significant, whether it is pursuing a dream, taking a stand for what we believe in, or stepping into the unknown, courage becomes the force that propels us forward. It is the inner conviction that, no matter the fear, the action is worth it. In moments of courage, we also discover our capacity for resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover from adversity, to bounce back after setbacks, and to keep moving forward even when the road ahead is uncertain. Courage and resilience are two sides of the same coin. We cannot be resilient without courage, for resilience requires the willingness to face difficulties head-on, to endure hardship, and to keep going despite obstacles. When we act courageously, we develop resilience. And as we cultivate resilience, we become more courageous in future endeavors. The cycle continues, building upon itself and reinforcing the strength needed to tackle even greater challenges. It is also important to recognize that courage is not always loud or dramatic. Often the most courageous acts are quiet, subtle, and unnoticed by others. The courage to speak up when it is easier to remain silent. The courage to stand firm in our beliefs when they are challenged. The courage to continue pursuing a goal despite the many obstacles in our way. These are the everyday forms of courage that make a difference. The small, quiet acts of courage accumulate over time, shaping the course of our lives and the lives of those around us. Courage is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it is simply the strength to persist in the face of adversity, to take one more step when it feels like everything is falling apart. In the face of fear, courage is often what separates those who succeed from those who falter. Success does not come to those who have no fear. It comes to those who acknowledge their fear and decide to act anyway. It is the person who is afraid but chooses to take that leap, the one who doubts but continues to push forward, the one who faces the unknown and steps into it with conviction. Courage is the bridge between fear and achievement. Without courage, we remain stagnant, trapped by our own limitations, confined by our doubts and insecurities. But when we find the courage to act, we break free from the grip of fear, and we unlock the door to limitless possibility. Courage is, at its heart, an affirmation of our potential. It is a recognition that, despite our fears, we are capable of more than we think. It is an acknowledgement that, though we may stumble or fall, we have the strength to rise again. Courage allows us to confront the hardest challenges in life, to face the pain, the uncertainty, and the fear, and to continue moving forward in pursuit of our dreams. Courage does not make fear disappear, but it empowers us to move through fear with grace, to grow in the face of adversity, and to find the strength to persevere. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to act despite it. Fear is often an uncomfortable companion in our lives. It arrives uninvited, at moments when we least expect it, and it makes us question our abilities, our decisions, and the very path we're walking. Yet, fear is not an enemy, it is an ally in disguise, a teacher that offers us invaluable lessons when we are willing to listen. It is through facing fear that we discover hidden strengths, unlock new parts of ourselves, and push the boundaries of what we thought was possible. Fear is not something that should stop us. It is a sign that we are on the edge of growth, on the brink of something transformative. When fear comes, it often brings with it a sense of limitation. We feel small, vulnerable, and unsure of ourselves. It may convince us that we are not capable of handling what lies ahead, that we are unworthy of success, or that failure is inevitable. However, these very feelings of insecurity are the fuel for growth. When we acknowledge fear and choose to move forward despite it, we open the door to resilience. We prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we initially believed. The more we confront our fear, the more we realize that it has no real power over us unless we give it that power. Each step taken in the face of fear strengthens our resolve and builds our confidence. When we learn to face fear instead of running from it, we begin to see the world differently. The very thing that once seemed intimidating becomes a challenge to be embraced. Fear is often a signal that we are venturing into new territory, stretching beyond the limits of our comfort zones. Without fear, there would be no growth, no expansion of our abilities. We would remain stagnant in the same place, stuck in what is familiar and safe. It is the fear of the unknown that pushes us to explore, to take risks, and to evolve. Every time we face our fear, we are stepping into the future, into a realm of possibilities we never would have encountered had we stayed behind the protective walls of comfort. As we face fear, we often discover that it is not as intimidating as it first seemed. In fact, much of the fear we experience is rooted in imagination, in worst-case scenarios that may never come to pass. We imagine failure, disappointment, and rejection, yet often find that the reality is far less frightening. By confronting fear head-on, we break it down, examining it for what it truly is. We begin to realize that fear is just an emotion, not a force that can control us unless we allow it. The more we look fear in the eye and take action anyway, the less power it has over us. The very act of moving forward, despite the fear, diminishes its strength and diminishes its grip on our lives. What often accompanies fear is doubt. Self-doubt arises in moments when we question our worth, our abilities, or our readiness. We may wonder whether we are good enough, smart enough, or skilled enough to face the challenges ahead. But just as fear is a teacher, so too is self-doubt. It forces us to pause and reflect on our motivations and our intentions. It makes us ask ourselves whether we are truly committed to the path we are on. Self-doubt is not a signal that we should turn back. It is a prompt to dig deeper, to strengthen our conviction, and to align our actions with our core values. Instead of letting doubt paralyze us, we can use it as a springboard for introspection and self-improvement. Fear and doubt, when understood correctly, become essential parts of the journey towards success. They are not signs of weakness or failure, they are markers of progress. They show us that we are stepping into something new, something that challenges us to grow and evolve. If we refuse to face fear and doubt, we remain in the same place, untested and unchanged. But if we confront them head-on, we emerge stronger, more resilient, and more capable than we ever imagined. The very fear that once seemed like an obstacle becomes a stepping stone toward achieving our goals and realizing our potential. Through this process, we also learn to be more compassionate with ourselves. Facing fear and doubt teaches us that growth is not a straight path. There will be moments of uncertainty, moments when we falter, and moments when we question whether we are on the right track. These moments are not failures, they are part of the journey. It is in these moments that we learn the most about ourselves. We learn to be kind to ourselves in the face of fear, to acknowledge our limitations without allowing them to define us. By showing ourselves compassion, we create space for growth, for exploration, and for transformation. When we embrace fear as a natural part of life, we begin to see it in a new light. Fear is not something to be avoided or feared. It is an invitation to grow, to stretch beyond our limits, and to discover what we are truly capable of. Fear is a companion on the journey of self-discovery and achievement. It teaches us that discomfort is a sign of progress, that growth often requires us to move through the very things we fear. The more we face fear, the more we learn to navigate it with confidence and resilience. Fear does not need to control us. When we choose to act despite fear, we unlock the true power within us, and we become unstoppable in the pursuit of our dreams.